What we've found is that there is a big blind spot when it comes to the way that training and enablement people look at improving the performance of the sales team. There are certain mistakes that salespeople make on actual sales interactions with decision makers and influencers. Whether it's an in person meeting, a virtual call, a phone call, or even calls in call centers, there's very specific mistakes that sellers make, and they make them day after day, week after week, and month after month. And these same mistakes are often made by experienced salespeople just as often as they are by people that are new to sales. In just a moment, I'll share with you the research around what those mistakes are. But first, it's important to understand that there's an enormous amount of time, effort, and investment that goes into the activity that sales managers and trainers and enablement people put into working with the sales team to impact their performance. And certainly a lot of that activity is really valuable. But what that activity is not doing is impacting these performance decreasing factors. All right, let's go into the research. So over a 3-year period, starting back in 2017, we interviewed over 350 sales leaders, tested dozens of sales teams, and worked with thousands of salespeople to try to determine what is it they're doing in actual interactions with decision makers that lower their odds of success. And in each of those interviews with all those sales leaders, we asked them, what is it you observe in your salespeople that they're doing that lowers their odds of success? And in nearly every interview, they pointed to 4 very specific mistakes. And those mistakes are, first, talking too much, not getting to the point quick enough. Number 2, not asking the right questions at the right time, at the right place in the sales process. Number 3, an inability to communicate a value proposition or differentiating factors that have real impact. And number 4, inconsistent approach to closing or determining the next step in the last 5 to 10 minutes of the meeting. Now, here's the thing. I've been in sales training, consulting, and research my entire career. And when I look back 30 years ago, when I first started and was reading those studies and research about the mistakes salespeople make, it was those same 4 factors. And the reality is, over the last 3 decades, hundreds of books have been written about how to ask better questions, listen better, present better value. And these concepts are built into every training program, and every program that sales managers go into about coaching emphasizes these key points. But for whatever reason, these are mistakes that salespeople keep making day after day, week after week, and month after month. And when we ask sales leaders why salespeople continue to make these mistakes, oftentimes they just throw up their hands and say, it's just human nature. A lot of people are just not good listeners, or it's just not in their DNA to ask good questions and listen, and they get into bad habits or ruts that are hard to break. And no doubt some of that is true. But the more important element is that the training and coaching that most sales organizations give to their salespeople is not having much impact on those 4 factors. And that's really what the sales enablement, coaching, and training blind spot is all about. Too much energy and resources is going into activities and coaching methods that don't have much impact on those results-lowering mistakes. What we have found in working with hundreds of frontline sales managers and trainers for that matter is they approach coaching as more of a discussion, best practices, and sort of metrics review exercise. Looking at the performance of the people that work for them, going over the numbers, reviewing the pipeline, giving suggestions, doing best practices, discovery, and all that kind of thing. And there's certainly a place for that, but the reality is that style of coaching and interaction doesn't have much impact on what we call sales fluency at SalesGym. The ability to communicate under pressure in a way that maximizes results. What we found at SalesGym is that nearly all sales managers, and sales trainers for that matter, are going to get much better results if they think of training and coaching the same way an elite sports coach approaches it in terms of the way they work with their athletes and prepare them for competition. What sports coaches understand is that in addition to the specific skills for whatever sport it is that they're competing in, there are underlying core capabilities that have an enormous impact on performance. And those core capabilities are consistent across most sports. For example, strength, speed, flexibility, agility, quickness, and coordination. These core capabilities are so important So much so that if an athlete has strong skills in their sport, but they don't have the strength or the speed or the agility or the quickness, they're just going to underperform game after game. So sports coaches build training and practice and drills around strength and speed and quickness, and they practice them week after week. And the team is always working on improving in those core capabilities, along with the more specific skills related to that sport. So what's important to understand is that elite sports coaches go to great effort to build a practice system with drills that are fast-paced and have an impact on those core capability areas. Short drills that really challenge athletes to improve and get better. Unfortunately, in nearly all sales organizations, this is missing. This is the blind spot. Sales managers don't have practice drills that they can work on with their sales team week after week that improve those core capability areas. Areas like being able to start a meeting with an effective ask, listen, understand first agenda. The ability to ask questions the right way with disruptive insights that challenge the status quo thinking. The ability to summarize at the right time in the meeting to really clarify the thinking of the people we're meeting with. The ability to shrink ideas into a short, concise presentation in such a way that's engaging and gets a positive reaction. How to draw out resistance and objections throughout the conversation. How to end meetings in such a way where next steps are identified. Now, these are core capability areas that all salespeople make, whether you're selling financial services or IT consulting or website design or digital advertising. It doesn't matter. These are the core skills that we need drills, fast-paced, hard-hitting drills that improve our skills week after week so that our strength, our quickness, our endurance, our agility improves in a sales sense. So one of the biggest obstacles to getting sales managers and trainers to do these kinds of drills is they don't know what they are because they've never experienced them themselves. For most sales managers, a sales drill is a foreign experience because they didn't work for a manager that put them through sales drills. So we need to expose them to these drills that have real impact on selling skill. So what you're going to see next is a demonstration of a sales drill between a sales coach and a seller that is working on a very fundamental skill, which is the ability to communicate a value proposition element. What's important about this demonstration is the way the coach interacts with the salesperson and uses demonstration and repetition to improve her performance. Let's take a look at the impact that Dean's coaching has on Brittany.
All right, so Brittany, what we're going to be working on today is really how we differentiate ourselves and how we develop more powerful value propositions when we're talking to prospects. And today we're talking about high net worth prospects, particularly investors and business owners. So with that in mind, just kind of curious who's coming to mind that you think would be a good fit for our practice today.
Yeah, this is really great timing. I actually have a meeting tomorrow with Kevin. He owns a local law firm. We've been having a lot of conversations and just can't quite get him in the door. He has a lot of questions. And so I'm really looking forward to maybe practicing with him in mind.
Okay, good to go. So we'll imagine that I'm Kevin, I'm that local business owner, and that you already know me a little bit, but you're really trying to make some progress with me today. Now, what I want you to do is respond to me as if I'm Kevin, and I'm going to tee you up with a question. So remember, I'm Kevin, and just respond to me naturally. So here's my question for you, Brittany. There's a lot of different financial advisors we could work with out there. And one thing I'm curious about is what is it that you're doing differently whenever it comes to working with business owners like myself?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Kevin. Something that I think our team does really well is we focus on having a financial plan and a strategy in place so you can feel really, really confident about your future. It's actually something I'm really passionate about. It's one of the things that I think helps set us apart, that we really do help get that plan in place that gives you every confidence in the world. So there's a lot of services and products out there that we can talk about in the process of that, but really I recommend that we get started with a financial plan.
All right, Brittany. So good job pointing in the direction of getting them going with a financial plan. It sounds like you definitely care. And this next go around, what I'd like you to do is pop out a few distinct elements of what it might look like to plan with a business owner for their future. For example, let me give you a little demo of how it might sound. So if I were to get that question from Kevin and he said, Dean, what are you doing that's different than other financial advisors? It might sound a little something like this. So, Kevin, I'm really glad you asked me that question. It gives me a chance to point out a few distinct things that business owners have told me makes a huge difference when it comes to working with us versus other financial advisors. And the first thing is the fact that we actually have worked with business owners in the past and we understand their needs. A lot of the people I work with say that traditional financial advisors simply don't understand their goals and their concerns because they're a lot different than a lot of other employees who maybe don't have those responsibilities or those ebbs and flows that a business owner does. The next piece is the fact that there aren't conflicts of interest. They said in the past they've worked with financial advisors who they truly didn't trust their advice because they didn't trust where their incentives lied, and they felt like there was always a conflict in the investments they promoted versus what the business owners thought they should be investing in. And then finally, and this is probably the most important thing, and it's definitely the thing I hear most often, is business owners tell me they're really concerned they're going to outlive their nest egg. And so they want a financial advisor who has a plan in place that gives them confidence that these investments that they're making are going to sustain them through the entirety of their retirement. So that's what we're hearing when we talk to other business owners like yourself. And I'm curious from your perspective, Kevin, what is it that you're looking for whenever it comes to your financial advisor? All right, so what stood out there as I was going through there, Brittany?
Oh, wow. That was so good. Gosh, let's see. So there were those 3 points. I really liked how you had 3 points instead of one. I do think that they kind of tied back to that financial planning, but you really elaborated in a way that makes it stand out and sounds different from what other financial planners might be doing, which is great. You also had a really good question at the end. I liked that. I think sometimes I give my spiel and then I just kind of sit there. It can be a little awkward waiting for someone to respond. So I like the idea of having a question to keep the conversation moving forward. And then you really brought in, hey, we've worked with other business owners before, which is true. Like myself and my team, we've sat down with a lot of local business owners. I think that's how we actually got Kevin referred to us, so there's a lot of people out there who love what we do. I like the idea of relying on them and what they've said rather than just me and my opinion.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Those are a few things I was hoping you'd notice in there. So in this next example, what I'd like you to do is pop out some distinct elements you plan on helping Kevin with. Share what you've been hearing from other business owners so he knows it's not your opinion. This is actually people just like him sharing their opinion. And then try to end with that nice open-ended question to really kick off a great conversation. So you ready for that next round?
I think so.
All right. So again, imagine that I'm Kevin and I'm teeing up with this question and respond in kind. So Brittany, just kind of curious, you'd mentioned that you want to work with me and that, you have experience working with business owners, but I'm just trying to understand from your perspective, like, why would I want to work with somebody like you? What are you doing that's different than other financial advisors out there?
Yeah, Kevin, that's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. I think what we hear from other business owners, because we've worked with a lot of business owners, right, in this community, I think what we've heard from a lot of them is a few things. First of all, we really do a good job helping plan for your business, right? You're not just bringing home a paycheck every couple of weeks and deciding how to invest that money. You have so many other things to account for: your assets, your employees, this thing that you've built that you've done such a great job at, having this business. And so we actually really understand the specific needs that you have as a business owner. And so when we make a financial plan, we're helping to account for all of that. And then, another thing that I think is really important is we want to make sure that you don't outlive your retirement, right? That you have everything you need when you hit retirement, so you can feel really confident going into retirement, maintaining that same standard of living, knowing that you have everything you need for the future. So I think those are a couple things that some people have said and that I've noticed. Does that kind of answer your question?
Nice, Brittany. So you did a good job of popping out two distinct elements there. And then I like that you also brought in the opinion of other business owners as you were going through there. And my challenge for you next go around is to tie in maybe one more value proposition while kind of following that same format, and then end with a strong open-ended question. So let me give you one more example, and then we'll send it back to you for another shot at it. So if I were to get that question, it might sound a little something like, Kevin, I'm really glad that you brought that up, and it gives me the opportunity to talk about some of the work I've done with other business owners, much like yourself. And when I'm working with other business owners, they always say there's three distinct things that really stand out for them about our work together. The first is they say that it's really unique that I actually have an understanding of what it's like to work with other business owners. They say in the past they've worked with other financial advisors where they really felt like they didn't understand their particular goals and needs in ways that I have, simply because they hadn't worked with business owners in the past, so they just didn't understand what that world looked like. The next piece is they felt like our incentives were actually aligned. Whenever they worked with financial advisors in the past, they often said there were conflicts of interest there because the financial advisors would push them towards investments that would line their pockets, but weren't necessarily a fit for their particular needs and goals. And for that reason, they often didn't trust the advice they were getting. And then the last piece, and this is probably the most important, is they said they like that we actually give them confidence that they're going to be able to live through a full retirement and not outlive their nest egg. One of the most common concerns I hear as I'm talking with other business owners is that they're going to get to that retirement, do all that work, and then they're going to be nervous to start withdrawing because they don't trust the plan in place and they're scared they're going to outlive their money. And so one of the things they really love about us is whenever we work on our plans together, we can show them what it looks like from the time they retire and so the time they complete retirement, what it looks like to actually do those withdrawals and do it safely. So that's what I've been hearing from other business owners as far as what's been most important for them. And I'm curious from your perspective, what are you really looking to get out of this relationship whenever it comes to what your needs are with a financial advisor? All right, Brittany, so what did you notice as I was finishing up there?
I really liked that question at the end. Just, what is it that you really need from a financial plan and from a financial advisor? Like, really get that conversation going. So I want to work on that for sure.
All right, on this next go around, that's going to be your goal, right? Share the opinion of what you're hearing from other business owners just like them, and then kick off that great conversation with that strong open-ended question. So let me tee you up one more time, Brittany. So look, here's the deal, Brittany. I need to find a financial advisor who actually understands our needs and can really help us out. So from your perspective, why is it that I should be working with you versus somebody else?
Kevin, that's such a great question, and you really have come to the right place. We've worked with a lot of business owners in this community, and I think they say a few key things about what makes us different. And the first is that you are a business owner, right? You're not just an employee who's bringing home a consistent paycheck and deciding where to put that money. You have so many variables that you have to consider with your business. Everything from the assets you have to the employees and payroll to, what are you going to do when you retire? Are you handing it off? Are you going to, start moving things around? We help you think through all of that. And that's something that I think a lot of business owners locally would say really makes us different. We really understand the unique needs that you have. There's another thing that I think you would hear from a lot of people that we've worked with, and that's that we try and avoid any conflicts of interest. Sometimes you could go to another financial planner and they're going to push products and services that put money back in their pockets, right? That they're getting incentives for. We're really all about what is it going to put money back in your pocket. And so we're only going to recommend the plans, the services, the products that are going to do that for you. I think there's one more thing, and it's probably the biggest thing we hear and something I'm really passionate about, that we don't want you to get to retirement and be worried about outliving your money. We want you to get to retirement, know that you have exactly what you need and have so much confidence in the financial plan we've put together for you that you can just maintain your standard of living, feel really great about the future, enjoy life with your family, and not have any questions or concerns about it. And that's something that is so important and that we've heard from other business owners that they really feel good about when they hit retirement. So if you're thinking, Kevin, about your future and what's really important to you in a financial plan, what are some of the things that you are looking for?
Nice, Brittany, that was much better. So good job of kind of chaining together those three value propositions, talking about really what you've been hearing from other business owners and how these things have impacted them. And then that question at the end, that's going to kick off a great conversation. So what I would do is you're going to be working with Kevin tomorrow. Go ahead and practice this a few times, just see how it feels, and then get really comfortable with it, and then go out and deploy that and use it with them. So with this in mind, I'm just kind of curious. We touched on a few different rounds and a lot of key points in there. What's your main takeaway from today as far as maybe some learning points that you want to make sure you apply moving forward?
I really loved the 3 points you had, Dean. Every single one of them is true, and it just isn't something I'd really thought about in this context to be able to differentiate us from other financial planners in the area. And then really talking about other business owners, that's where we specialize. It is a differentiator. It does set us apart. So really bringing that to the surface and saying, hey, these are things that other business owners have said, or these are the reasons that people refer to us, and so being able to pull that out makes a lot of sense. I think that's the thing that really stood out the most.
And that's dead on, Brittany. And one of the things I'd be curious about is whenever it comes to that conversation you're having with Kevin tomorrow, how do you really plan on using what we practiced today to springboard that conversation and really get into some deeper things that really matter to Kevin?
So I think just practicing those 3 points, like you said, would be good. But then I also really like those open-ended questions, and I feel like that's hard to come up with in the moment. So I might try and spend some time, write some questions down and then be a little more prepared for that, just to stay in the moment, but also keep the conversation going.
That sounds great. So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and do that, practice it a few times, use it with Kevin, and then next week when we come back together, just share how it went and what you learned from that. And then whenever it comes to practice next week, one of the things we're going to be focused on is instead of business owners, we're going to focus on a retired couple. So I want you to brainstorm over the next week some concerns and some goals a retired couple might have, and then bring those into our actual practice round next week.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks so much, Dean.
All right, so what you've seen is the kind of coaching interaction, the type of practice coaching that rarely happens between sales managers and salespeople. It rarely happens between sales trainers and salespeople in the programs they deliver. It's a radically different style of coaching that we've engineered at the SalesGym that can be taught to sales teams. It can be taught to salespeople and sales managers so that they become more comfortable practicing together. So what we would suggest is you take us up on this offer. We will demonstrate this practice coaching methodology to 3 to 4 of your salespeople or several groups of 3 to 4 of your salespeople in a way where you can see it done live and see the impact that 60 minutes of high intensity practice drill coaching can have on salespeople's performance. You see, it's this type of coaching that impacts verbal sales fluency, whereas other types of coaching doesn't really have that much impact on how they show up and what they say and do when interacting with decision makers. This kind of coaching has real impact on how they perform under pressure. So take us up on this special offer. Get in contact with Kumi Fisher on our team, and she'll set up a time for us to discuss how we can do this demonstration with members of your sales team.